us through the resolutions?
It's been three very fruitful days, and it would not be in order for us to just go home without knowing what we will be assessing ourselves against come the next Civil Society Week. So mine is to take us through the resolutions, what we have agreed upon based on the input that we received from we, the participants. Just to set targets for ourselves going forward. So there's something that we had a team that was working on these resolutions, and were able to pick issues that feel are very pertinent, very dear to ourselves. I don't know whether you can see. Is it legible? Hope, can you see? Okay. But anyway. So those are the resolutions. We will try our best to have them big enough. But in short, we, the Undersigned Civil Society Organizations, brought the reconciliation process, the Kofi Annan process. And this includes reforms of the Constitution, issues of transitional justice, land reforms, police reforms, electoral reforms, boundary review, national cohesion and integration. Realizing that there is an open window of opportunity for government, civil society organizations and citizens to engage in bringing about desired reforms for this country, within the sector, then appreciating that the facility has demonstrated remarkable commitment towards working with civil society organizations in pursuing these ideals. Now, with that in mind, we are seeking to resolve as follows. 1. We seek to renew our commitment toward working together in mobilizing the Kenyan public to participate more effectively in democratic governance through A. Strengthening existing civil society partnerships and networks and creating the ones at the grassroots, regional and national levels. B. Reclarifying our vision, priorities and objectives for democratic governance and development in Kenya, including strategies for pursuing those objectives as one unified civil society voice. C. Demanding increased accountability within our own sector in the same way that we demand for accountability from the state through encouraging internal democracy and promoting sound governance practices within our organizations. D. Finding innovative ways of reducing our dependency on donor funding and increasing reliance on local resources and capacities to improve sustainability of our interventions. Number 2, to work for more involvement of women in governance processes at the grassroots, regional and national levels by A. Mobilizing women to participate more actively and effectively in governance at grassroots, national and regional levels. B. Working with all other interest groups, including men, youth, persons with disabilities and minority groups, and their organizations as partners in women empowerment. C. Participating more actively in and being less cynical about ongoing constitutional, legal, policy, institutional, and administrative reforms to pave way for improved and lasting women's participation in reforms. And D. Pushing the government to live up to its obligations and international, continental, regional commitments with regard to the rights of women. Number 3, to adopt and use a human rights-based approach in designing, planning, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating all our programs and activities in order to give effect to the dignity, work, and human rights of all people, including the human rights of women, persons with disability, the youth, children, and minorities. Number 4, to work more purposefully towards mainstreaming disability issues and enhancing the human rights of persons with disability within our organizations and in the country as a whole by undertaking to raise awareness on human rights of persons with disability as part and parcel of all our programs. B. Freely sharing information on disability issues. C. Working harder to combat all structural, cultural, and political factors that undermine the employment of human rights, the employment of persons with disabilities, including women with disabilities and children with disabilities. Then D. Improving accessibility by persons with disabilities to the physical environment and to information and communication, including by producing all our IC materials in formats that are accessible to persons with disability. Number 5, to lobby the government for the full domestication of the UN Convention on Persons with Disability, including the implementation of the provisions of the Persons with Disabilities Act 2003, I think it's 2006. It's 2003, okay. To advocate, mobilize, fundraise, draw strategies, and undertake activities to ensure the establishment of a National Youth Council that is governed by the youth themselves and that receives a budget allocation from the national coffers. Then to commence civic education and mobilization of the youth to ensure their effective participation in the democratization processes in the country, including the general election of 2012. Then number 8, to strengthen our partnerships with development partners working in the sector, including donors and organizations providing technical assistance with a view to harnessing all available resources to bring about the desired change. That is our resolution of this 6th day of November 2009. I must say that what you may be seeing on the board may be different from what I'm reading, but because it's still a work in progress. So, comments, questions, suggestions? May we
want disability. I would rather say that we use the word disadvantaged groups, because these people we are referring as disabled, they are not as such. They are able to do things. So I would suggest personally to use the word disadvantaged group. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I have 3 comments on page 30.
Mine has no numbers and Morris is talking on numbers. Have we
I totally support my brother because what we have found in the past is partial implementation of the act. We have a document, we just acquiring that, and doing this job for people with disability. So what we are proposing is not implementation, but implementation of the act. The other thing is there is a common example of this that we should be regarded as the disadvantage. We totally disagree with that. People with disabilities, we have an identity, and our identity is disability. Because families, they might say they are disadvantaged. Fishermen, hunters and gatherers. So it would be very hard for disability to really stand out. Thank you.
the youth team that was meeting yesterday actually took time at the end of the session to take resolutions based on the discussion we had. And it became clear to us that normal civic education is planned for and budgeted for in our country, and especially almost every election year. But half the time that information never goes there. It goes to other people who are considered beneficiaries for information on civic education, which is why we specifically mentioned civic education for the youth, for those two purposes that we have mentioned there. If anybody else in the room thinks that their group needs attention as far as civic education is concerned, then those groups need to be added, but we will insist that the youth have to be specifically and expressly mentioned, otherwise shall be forgotten again.
May I? Beatrice.
So I think just a moment before I continue, sorry, it's we could talk about the youth, but it's very important to include persons with disabilities.
Yes. In this, right?